Over the past week, I've been working on my Lego Wild West MOC. This is another project I have besides building my Lego city and something I like to focus on from time to time. In this update, I finished the train tracks, created a railway crossing, and as you can see right here, I finally finished off the canyons. And something else I needed to do is create the transition from the elevated part of my Wild West MOC onto the rest of the layout. In this part of the Wild West MOC, I'm using solely dark tan plates, whereas at the ground level of the MOC, I'm using cut plates and also mixing the different types of tan. Another thing I needed to do is finish off the angle of the table I've built. This is for another project I'm building beside my Wild West MOC. This is the only reason why I'm having this weird angle. I'll also cover up the wood that you can see from the side. Now to my favorite part of this week's update video. I'm covering up all the train tracks with reddish brown plates as well as reddish brown tiles in the middle of the train tracks. This helps so much with integrating the train tracks into the rest of my Wild West build, because all the buildings, the bridges in the background, some of the details, the fences and so on obviously are all built out of reddish brown as well as dark brown in order to have this wood color. Finally, having the rest of the gray from the train tracks removed looks so much better in total, and also, well, it's obviously extremely satisfying to watch, and this is also then something I really enjoy when having finished the build. Now onto the railway crossing. As you can see, I'm starting off by elevating the street, although for now I'm having too many straight lines when it comes to the elevation, so this is something I later on in this update also show you how I've improved that. Then directly after the railway crossing, I'm integrating the first curve. Next up, I'm adding these small crosses in order to signal that there's a train crossing coming, although I gotta say I wasn't quite sure if they existed back in the days of the Wild West. Next up, it's time to continue the landscaping on the flat part of my Wild West MOC. As I've mentioned in earlier videos, I'm using a mixture of dark tan and normal tan cut plates in order to create the structure for the ground. And then I'm also adding jumper plates in order to add vegetation later on. By the way, I've also finished the street that then leads directly to the edge of my Wild West MOC and would obviously then continue. But I simply had to integrate this train crossing in order to have the Wild West town connected to the rest of the scenery that would obviously continue outside of our small Wild West section. The only thing I'm doing now is adding more detail to the ground, adding more jumper plates in order to then add vegetation, especially tumbleweed. The tumbleweed, by the way, is this dark orange thing I'm adding in between the reddish brown flower stems. In this area, I really liked how these small cracks turned out in between the normal tan plates, because the spacing in between the different cut plates sort of give off this feeling of having a very dry ground, which you can also see in real life in deserts. One last thing I needed to rearrange are these telegraph masts, because I obviously can't put them directly onto the street. That's why this is my new section where I'm starting off, and the rest of them are simply placed along the train tracks, because that's something that was also quite common back in the Wild West days. As I've mentioned earlier in this update, I wasn't quite satisfied with how the railway crossing turned out, so I added more cut plates in order to break the structure. Beforehand we had two straight lines right here and back there, and I think having added cut plates, this fits the whole area much better than before. Another thing I did is I moved the windmill to the front of the Wild West MOC, because I have all this empty space in front right here, and I think this fills the gap really well. Beforehand, I had the windmill placed somewhere in the back and hadn't even connected it to the studs because I was never really satisfied with the placement. Now having it placed in front, I think it fits the whole scenery really well. When it comes to these telegraph masts, I still need to order more pieces because unfortunately I've used all my round bricks, and then the plan is to continue the telegraph masts along a straight line, not directly besides the train tracks, because it wouldn't really make any sense to have them go around in a circle, and also it wouldn't even fit into the canyon. So I'll continue them in a straight line, and this would then theoretically continue along this way, and back here I'm then adding a small curve and they disappear in this direction back there. So with that being said, that's it for this week's update video. I really hope you enjoyed. As always, you can leave any ideas down in the comment section below, and I'll see you again in the next video.